on, right under the noses of what has become an increasingly unaware public. Federal income tax is unconstitutional, and has been ruled so by the Supreme Court in multiple cases. Yet most Americans are compelled to pay through a campaign of intentional duress, propagated and perpetuated by the Internal Revenue Service and other compliant agencies, including America's law enforcement agencies, courts, and its intentionally under and even misinformed juries.
Payday. Payday. Yes, payday. Millions of dollars pouring into the hands of the American worker. Now in the mind of the average worker live two separate personalities. One, the thrifty.
Wait a bit, laddie. You're going to save a bit of that, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oftentimes, idle money burns a hole in your pocket, which brings out the other personality, the spendthrift.
Hi, big shot. Come on with me. I'll show you how to spend your dough.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
I got a couple of good dates.
No.
But, laddie, I've got some better dates.
Important ones, too. When every American should pay his or her income tax gladly and proudly.
The lives of countless Americans are destroyed every year, and their property stolen by an unconstitutional agency. And this is not only being ignored, but rather it is encouraged by the government. Of course the government is supporting this corruption. It is the banks and Wall Street that are funding them. Look at who their campaign contributors are. Look at who chairs the roundtable organizations they belong to. Organizations like the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the Project for a New American Century, and many others. It is the same people funding these organizations who control the puppet politicians and who profit off the interest from the national debt, the private owners of the central banks. The final stage in the plan to control the world's currency will culminate in an entirely electronic monetary system. Most larger transactions are already done electronically, but the day is fast coming when all transactions will be electronic. Already, supermarkets in the Netherlands have announced that they plan on doing away with cash transactions as soon as 2014. If we permit this new, entirely electronic monetary system to be installed, or sit idly by and do nothing, a day will come when all commerce is electronic, and it will allow those who control the electronic monetary system to be able to decide what you can or cannot buy, simply by pressing a button. If they turn off your chip, you will have no means of purchasing anything. They will control where you will live, who eats, and who does not. In short, they will control whether you live or die. The next step in my journey to uncover the truth about how the world is being run led me to Los Angeles, where it was a real honor and privilege to get to speak with Mr. Jordan Maxwell. Jordan is one of the world's foremost experts on occult symbolism, astrotheology, and the Illuminati. He has spent more than 50 years researching these topics and has written numerous books and videos, including the book your church does not want you to read, The Basic Slideshow Presentation, Dawn of a New Day, Priesthood of the Illus, and many others. Among a great many things, we spoke about the banks and the laws of commerce which dominate the lives of many Americans.
How many people in America know banks are nothing more than fronts for insurance companies? Insurance companies are the major stockholders of our banks. Yeah, and so that's why in America you have to have insurance on your car and you have to buckle up when you're driving. It's because the insurance companies, and the reason why you have to have insurance on your car and you have to buckle up when driving, probably have to do that now in Europe for the same reason, but the reason why you're doing it in America is because Americans think, well, as the government wants to protect us and we don't get hurt. Well, that's true. But why? They don't mind killing people all over the world in wars, hundreds of thousands of innocent women and children being murdered in wars all over the world, so they don't really care about human life. But why are they asking you to buckle up and be safe? It's because your body, your physical body, is a security on the New York Stock Exchange. They own your body. It's called Maritime Admiralty Law, the law of the sea, or the law of water. And since you are 90% water, whatever it is, you are mostly water. So they refer to human beings as Maritime Admiralty products. You are what is referred to as a human resource. You're not a man or a woman. Incidentally, if you go back and look at the correct English, there are books out about the English language and the correct use of English language in law and government. And if you look at the books on law and government and the English language, you will find that a man or a woman is referred to in law as feminine and masculine, but an animal in law as a male or female. This is why on all of your information, your ID, all your driver's license or whatever, it's always, are you male or female, not masculine or feminine. Masculine and feminine is for man and woman, but male or female is for a human being. A human being is, by law, in a court, a human being is not considered to be a man or woman. It is considered by law to be a Maritime Admiralty product, and that product is on the New York Stock Exchange. So your birth certificate, which represents your flesh and blood body, is a security on the New York Stock Exchange. You are nothing more than a human resource. You are an animal, a male or female animal that's being bought and sold by the corporation called United States Privately Owned Company. How many people know that the U.S. is a term this country would call the United States of America, is a republic, but the word United States in law means a corporation, a privately owned company. And so all corporations or privately owned companies, by law, if you're incorporated, you have to have a president. It's called corporate law. So you must have a president, and corporate law says if you're going to be a corporation, anybody can have a corporation, but you got to follow the rules. You got to have a president, a vice president, and a secretary treasurer. That you have to have if you're going to be a corporation. So today, there's a privately owned company in this country called United States Corporation. It was incorporated back in the 1870s. And it has a president. So Bush was the president of the corporation. Today Obama's the president of the corporation. But people don't understand the United States is a privately owned company. It's a corporation. It does not represent the American people at all. It's a corporation. Go on the web or go to a library and look up the subject of corporations and look up United States Corporation. You will find the United States Corporation, which is headquartered in Washington, D.C., is a privately owned corporation. It's a company. And as any other corporation, like I said, they got president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, but it has nothing to do with America as a republic. It's a privately owned company. Americans just go about their daily business, surrendering their sovereignty, surrendering their free will, surrendering their children, surrendering everything they have to a damn privately owned corporation, a company.
Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Kennedy. I love talking about the Kennedy assassination because to me it's a great example of a totalitarian government's ability to, manage information and thus keep us in the dark any way they do. Oh, sorry, wrong meeting.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
Attacked us and killed 3,000 of our citizens before we started the freedom agenda in the Middle East. They were... What did Iraq have to do with what?
The attack on the World Trade Center.
Nothing.
And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
The conspiracy which Kennedy spoke of has taken over to such an extent that in the less than 50 years since his assassination, they now control the majority of the world's governments. This criminal cabal of banksters and their partners in crime, the so-called elite, many of whom are members of the monarchy, have control of the vast majority of the world's resources, and they will not rest until they own every last piece of land, every man, woman, and child, the animals, the birds, the insects, the plants, and even the air we breathe. The so-called elite are actually members of a single bloodline who have attempted to control the world since the beginning of recorded history. This bloodline is well documented in historical records available to all. Their genealogy can be traced back to the Roman emperors, the Egyptian pharaohs, and even as far back as the first recorded civilization in Sumer. This bloodline see themselves as above the rest of humanity. They consider themselves demigods with a divine right to rule. This is in fact where the divine right of kings comes from. And though they have stepped back into the shadows and allowed mankind the perception of freedom, in actuality they have never forfeited even a modicum of control. This is why most of the presidents of the United States have been direct descendants of the monarchy, related to the House of Windsor, which is really the House of Saxe-Coburg, the House of Orange, and the Merovingian bloodline. The members of these families have intermarried to such an extent that they are in truth one bloodline, one family. This is why the majority of presidents are related to each other. The perception that anyone can become president is a myth, which has been foisted not only on the American people, but on the world. Barack Obama is related to Dick Cheney and George Bush, who is related to the Queen of England. The myth that America is a free country is just that, a myth. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe once said, "None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free." The people he was referring to constitute the majority of the world's population, most particularly citizens in the Western world. The false perception of freedom is a belief which is allowed to flourish, because the slave who thinks himself free is not likely to rebel against his masters. My travels brought me to Kansas to visit with researcher, documentary filmmaker, TV and radio show host Freeman. Freeman's shows explore many interrelated topics, from Masons and esoteric symbols to ancient history and aliens. Among a great many things, we discussed the agenda of the